Greetings everybody, welcome back to G4G News. I am your host, Napalm Dawn. Today's background music is brought to you by Relaxing Jazz and Bossa Nova Music Radio here on YouTube. Not particularly a jazz fan, but this stuff is kind of cool. It's good background music. So today in G4G News, we are back with Jessica Price. And hopefully this is going to be the last time that we deal with this crazy unhinged person over here. She truly is getting to the level of Alex Maurer. And again, if you're not familiar with Alex Maurer, I suggest you go over to Sid Alpha's channel and check out his coverage of the Alex Maurer saga that had been happening over the last year or so. So Jessica's apparently on vacation now, but before she went on vacation, she decided to leave this little Twitter drama bomb out there and kind of drop the mic and walk away. She said, "Hey everyone, I've got something to say and I'm going to go back off Twitter for a bit because I've had a vacation planned for a while and I intend to take it." Yep, you've got a vacation, alright. So, before I get into what she said, I just want to clear something up. I want to make sure that everybody understands that I actually do not believe she should have been terminated over this situation. I believe this is a situation where ArenaNet, if I was ArenaNet, this is what I would have said. I would have pulled her into the office and said, "Jessica, listen, what you did on Twitter could potentially be costly for us. You should not be exchanging with people in any way, shape, or form on your Twitter when you are acting as a representative of the company. This is not you having a fight over whether McDonald's or Burger King is better, or you complaining about an airline's rebooking you or something like that. You were acting as an agent of this company and you were engaging with the community that surrounds the game you work for. Therefore, we are requesting that you take a break from your social media account for no less than a month. And when you come back, you need to issue an honest sounding apology, or issue that apology as you were going out and apologize to the community and say that you were taking a break for a little while so that you can think about how you responded to Dewar, so on and so forth." I wouldn't dictate to her what she needed to say, but I would certainly make some key points, one of which would be an apology for how she treated what seems to be a valued member of the Guild Wars 2 community, and said that she's going to take some time off to think about why she reacted the way that she did. That's how I would approach it. Granted, this is a company asking her to refrain from using their own personal social media account. However, they made it about their job by having their job in the description and talking about what they do for a living and talking to somebody in the community that consumes what she does for a living. Let's not forget the Total Biscuit tweet. I mean, Total Biscuit comments on games. She's in gaming. Whether or not she's ever had her works critiqued by Total Biscuit, it's still a horrific thing to see her reaction to Total Biscuit's death. And again, I draw the parallel of a movie director being upset if a critic passed away. That person would be vilified in the community and suffer major backlash if they were to do that. So why would it be in any circle acceptable for Jessica Price or others to do that? Especially when they are in the industry that Total Biscuit critiques. So, she has got a major chip on her shoulder when she says that she is only turning on notifications for people that she knows. If you are a legitimate industry press person, go through mutual networks to contact her. Here's the thing you should be noting if you're a game dev. Fortunately, she doesn't say female game dev, but kudos for not twisting the plan around this time. Much of the narrative has been around how I was fired and whether there was a warning or discussion. You're missing a big chunk of it. Let's talk about now how I was fired, but how it was announced. She's saying that the announcement was an escalation of the situation. The company could have chosen to say their remarks don't represent the company. We don't agree with what they said. They're no longer here. That is exactly what Mike said. She happened to say that, Mike did say that. They did add attacks on the community because that's what she did. She referred to people who would comment to her from the community as rando asshats. But more specifically, in Jessica's world, it's the people that go against what she says are the rando asshats, because she actually responds to the people who talk positively to her. If you're just going to want to sit there and date what's in the mirror, then date what's in the mirror and don't go out and engage other people. If you're only going to accept things that mirror your own, fuck the mirror and don't go outside and deal with other people. Absolutely ludicrous. They knew, or at least had a responsibility to know in 2018 what would happen to a female game dev who was fired in response to an exchange about sexism. Well, that wasn't in Mike O'Brien's statement. It was attacks on the community. You made the exchange about sexism. So where does that fault lie? Are they supposed to keep you employed in the company simply because you made it about sexism? So now you've shielded yourself with this? And let me get this also patently clear over here. And this is something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about when I've read press on this and everything. There is a middle ground here that feels that Jessica should definitely be fired for what she did. However, Peter shouldn't have, because all he really did was post a very mild defense of her without really going on a rant against the community. However, look at the position that ArenaNet was put in. If ArenaNet terminated Jessica but did not terminate Peter, that would have been billed as sexist, and you absolutely know it. Granted, the truth of the matter would be Jessica actually did the attack, whereas Peter was in the back, maybe occasionally putting up a riot shield in front of her. Jessica was the one shooting the guns and mowing down the mobs. All Peter did was, maybe give her a lemonade when she decided to take a break and give her a little fan in the face, like an ancient Egyptian slave, and then she went back out there and did it. If Peter was not wrapped up in this and terminated the way Jessica did, everybody would point, see, she, female, got fired, but he, the dude, didn't. That, in and of itself, would have been a problem. As a matter of fact, Peter should sarcastically be thanking Jessica for getting him fired because, well, he needs to thank himself. But he chose to involve himself in a situation where he would not be able to win in any way, shape, or form. And he should have known that. To people who disagreed with his point or the situation, he'd be accused of being a white knight or sucking up to her because it's the friend syndrome, aka the dick in a glass jar. If not that, then people, the other side of it is people would be supportive. Thank you for sticking up for your friend and Dev. But he got sucked into that Katamari ball that was Jessica's escalating issues, rolling down a hill at 90 miles an hour. And then it was too late to separate them. Because, again, if she was termed, but he was not, all people who were looking at this in Jessica's narrative would have said, see, he stayed, she didn't. This is a sexist company. This is a sexist firing. But the truth of the matter is he was not nearly as responsible, and by his own admission was there for a very, very long time. I would imagine longer than Jessica, so he might have had more value to the company simply based on tenure, not sex. I truly believe when ArenaNet discussed this amongst themselves, they probably felt they had to get rid of him, otherwise it would look sexist. Folks, that's what PR is. That is communication. You have to understand that is how the world works. when it comes to public relations. You are watching a video of somebody who is actually trained in PR. I am one of those people that could have very well, for a living, been putting the comments out there that Mike O'Brien did. Could have potentially been present, much like HR, at the firing. She has spun this so expertly that there are media outlets that are wrapped up in what she says and take it to be gospel and the truth and supportive people, but it is not the reality. This is a very isolated reality only to Jessica and the people that belong with her, but they don't understand how the real world is working here. Peter's association to this situation got himself fired, and it's thanks to Jessica. Granted, he could have stayed off to the side and he wouldn't have been in this mess and he'd have his job, but these were her actions that managed to take him out with him. And Jessica, the more that she commented on things like Manfields and everything, the bigger she made the Katamari ball that Peter was already part of and could not divorce himself from. So I do not for 1 second believe these comments of where she was like, you know, Mike O'Brien was at this meeting but didn't have to be, and he just wanted to sit there and explain his emotions and have power over a woman to make her sit there and listen to it. That is absolutely bullshit. That's not how jobs work. He is the president of it. He can command anybody to sit there and listen to this stuff. That's what a job is. That is what ranking and status and position in a job is. He is maybe not your immediate boss, but he is your giant boss. If my CEO comes up to me and talks to me or tells me something or asks me to do something or asks me to listen, he gets that power over me because he is the friggin' CEO. Military works this way. Jobs work this way. It's not about your sex compared to his sex. That's the issue here. If he said, if you want to still keep a job, you better come around this desk and duck down and do a little knob schlamming, that is a sexist issue, and that is harassment and power by every definition and is utterly horrendous. But what he did, especially by her own admission that her more close boss was out of town, what do you fucking expect? This is where I think part of the reason why I think she's ridiculously unhinged. And she has never ever apologized for the situation as far as I see. She's never apologized to Deroir. She's never apologized to Peter for getting him embroiled in this Katamari ball of bullshit she has created. And now she has managed to sling every rock that she has in her ammo pouch at everybody else around her but her and Peter. They take no responsibility whatsoever. The only slight wink and a nod here is who I thought were being assholes. She's still not apologizing, but there is a little bit of a crack in the eggshell here where she's saying, okay, alright, I get it. Maybe this guy wasn't actually being a mansplaining dick. And if I'm going to say that word over here, let me tell you, as a student of communications, as somebody who went to college for it and dealt with 4 years of it, of persuasion, nonverbal communication, public relations, organizational communication, all the classes that I took in this, there is one thing among many that has definitely stuck out with me, and is the way men and women communicate overall. And this is a known fact. Men and women have different communication styles. Women go for empathy and sympathy, understanding, and relating it to stories in their own life. Men communicate in wanting the facts, wanting to get to the point, wanting to knife through the bullshit, and offering help, offering the fix. So let me give you a little bit of an example here. You come home from a day of work and your girlfriend sits there and says, man, I had such a shit day at the office. There's this newish girl that we've had for the last 2 months or so. She keeps undermining all the work that I do. There's been a lot of stuff I'm supposed to get credit for, and you know, she's downplaying it, and I think she sabotaged a bunch of things. Here's how each sex responds to that. Even as a boyfriend, a husband, whatever, the guy responds with helpful things, the fix for it. In other words, well, you said she's new, you get along really well with your boss Bob, you've worked together for 5 years, she's only been there a couple months, why don't you tell Bob about what's happening? Call his attention to it, maybe he'll see it and get rid of her. She doesn't have the tenure you do, she doesn't seem to get along with your boss as well as you do. Point it out, and maybe you can get it fixed. That's what a guy does. Like coming up to a car abandoned on the side of the road. They want to get down, pull up the wrench, jack up the car, change the tire, get you on your way. If that same conversation was had with another woman, the woman would be like, oh yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. At my job, my boss, Linda, like she totally does this shit and all the time. And if I'm talking to somebody, she swoops in and gets all the attention, like tries to talk over me and interrupts me. Man, I feel so terrible for you. I know what it's like to have that kind of situation. That's how females communicate. Sympathy, empathy, compared to here's the fix. Like, let me help you fix the problem that you have. Whereas women are like, I'm not here to tell you how to fix it. I just want to let you know you have a friend. That is male and female communication styles. Mansplaining is a twist on that that makes the male form of communication often bad. Men talk to other men the same way. Now, it is one thing if a man is explaining something to a woman in a way that conveys he thinks she doesn't know enough about it. That is when mansplaining is bad. But at its core, the thing that men do that is called mansplaining is just simply the way the gender communicates, period. If you're not attempting to be demeaning or downplay the woman's knowledge, then you're not actually mansplaining. You were just communicating the way the male sex is communicated for ages. And that's a lot of what goes into this. So what Durar was doing was not mansplaining. He was just communicating in the male style. And of course, Jessica, who sees donkeys, if that's all she wants to see, she'll see donkeys everywhere. She saw a donkey and attacked on it. That's part of the reason why, you know, she is the way that she is. Now, again, there is certainly a bad aspect of mansplaining, but a lot of times what is often interpreted is that it's just a guy being a guy, and he would say the same thing to another guy, because that is just the male form of communication. And as a matter of fact, if you downplay it, let's say you are a car salesman and a guy comes in and you're talking about 24 valve engine, and this is rotary engine with very little wear, and it's a straight 6, and it gets 38 miles to the gallon in eco mode and 30 in sport mode. But when the woman comes in, you're talking about the mirrors on the back of the you know, the sun visors and everything. That is definitely sexist. But if you downplay your knowledge in a communication, you can get accused of talking down to the woman or dumbing it down so that a quote-unquote woman can understand it. So guys are screwed either way on this one. If we do it the way we normally would do it, technical and to the point, then it's mansplaining. But if we are trying to avoid the mansplaining thing, then we're accused of dumbing it down. Like, what do you think, I'm stupid? So Jessica would probably be one of those people who would catch people out on either side of that. So here she is saying they escalated. They pointed to Peter and I as enemies of the community. I don't think you should lump Peter into this, because Peter didn't go after the community. Peter defended you. You're dragging him along to make him maybe feel better about his stuff, but that's not what happened. And the enemy of the community was you when you said rando asshats and kept making it seem like the Guild Wars 2 community was toxic. And then you think they've been mobilized and weaponized with sock puppet and, fake bot accounts. This is like Trump way of thinking, where if somebody goes against me, there has to be something screwy about it. They can't just think that my shit is wrong or have an opinion negative to me based on their own thing. It has to be a problem. It has to be fake. That's what she's doing here. And their silence in condemning the harassment is profoundly telling. What more do they have to do for you? You are a former employee. Do you expect them to go out there and cover your back and say, hey people, look, we got rid of them because they did this thing, but please leave them alone, let them lead their lives, they're done, the situation's over, blah blah blah. See, what people are forgetting about this is that when Jessica did this, it was late on the 3rd and stuff was happening on the 4th. Well, the company was closed on the 4th for a holiday, and they chose not to do anything until the 5th. So people think the mob influenced ArenaNet, when in reality, they were not doing anything during a holiday when everything was building. But Mike has already said their plans were in motion for this situation very early on after the tweet happened, rather than after a mob showed up on their door like Dr. Frankenstein's castle with pitchforks and torches. That isn't what happened. They sat on top of the castle, looked down in the village, and saw what was happening when it happened and went, oh shit. And then the mob came after. So, escalated harassment of developers, 2014, 2015, female marginalized. They were aware it was going to get deluged with threats, harassment, etc. The firing wasn't the punishment. The use of the mob was. They didn't ask the mob to do anything, and they didn't use anything about them. Maybe they didn't open the door and shoo them and say, I've killed Frankenstein, I've killed the monster Frankenstein, he's not here anymore, he's been thrown apart in the dumpster, go away. Maybe they didn't sit there and say that, but they didn't invite the mob to come to the door anyway. You did that by shitting on a community that didn't want to take it and got upset. I mean, is this any different than people protesting Chick-fil-A because they had their issues with gay communities and everything? I'm not sure what they can possibly do to reassure their employees, let alone every other dev in the industry whose backs they painted targets on, that they won't use a mob to punish employees, blah, 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 blah. Again, you are putting the blame on ArenaNet for what you did, and let's remember, he has stated, but you don't want to acknowledge this because it goes against your woe is me Jessica routine. They have stated that this was in motion before the mob showed up. Therefore, the mob is an extraneous factor. It is a fan waving way out in left field somewhere. You were already making the catch whether or not that fan started a wave that went around the fucking arena. The wave didn't do anything. You caught the ball, that's it. One more thing, Mike O'Brien's recent statement reduces my contribution to one scene from one episode. No. Again, stop playing the victim. He said in his in one of his interviews with Polygon is that they were also a member of a famous scene that he wanted to point out to people to give them credit. In other words, he was saying Jessica Price and Peter worked on that very, very amazing, that sounds Trumpish, but I'm sorry, that very amazing and well choreographed lightsaber sequence between Obi-Wan and Anakin. He's not saying that's the only thing they did in that movie, but he's pointing to something that people liked and is well received and said they were part of that. That's what he did. He was, not having played Guild Wars 2 since the very, very beginning when it came out, certainly not these episodes, I get what he's saying is that he was trying to point out that, hey, this is a fan favorite sequence. They were part of that team amongst many other things. So you were not being reduced or marginalized just to one tiny thing. Here she's saying, everything you've seen of the story so far this season is my work, and you're going to be seeing my work in it for a long time. Everything in GW2 is made by a team. There's no content made by one person. I led the meetings, I did this, I did that. Okay, but if somebody else actually wrote it and you simply rubber stamped it or sent it back to be tweaked or something, blah, 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 it's not actually yours. You just greenlit it. You were a bridge. You can't take credit for the car going over a bridge. The car is the car. It just went over you. That's cool. You shuttled it from side to side. Everything she wrote herself, cool. Glad you did it. But if you were just running a meeting and you said yay or nay to ideas or sentences and everything, it's still other people who actually wrote it. A bunch of the content you'll be seeing is also work led by women, female teams, game design leads, writing leads, cinematic leads. It's the best content GW2 has produced. Women in this industry lead and aren't going anywhere. Good. Absolutely great. Fine. There should be more women in the development industry, in IT, in CS, in gaming, in some of these more technical spheres. Absolutely. I don't think anybody's saying that they shouldn't be or degrading their work done. I'm very happy to know that this is going on with ArenaNet and Guild Wars 2. But don't use it to make yourself sound like you're Abraham Lincoln freeing some slaves. Good for everybody else. Hopefully they don't make the mistake that you did. I mean, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to direct the mob at them. Oh, way to go, Martyr. Way to go that you don't list all the females working at Guild Wars 2 name by name, effectively doxing them. Well, at least you learned from Zoe Quinn, I guess. Anyway, if you're a dev in this industry, take a very careful look at what ArenaNet has done and get a guarantee from your management they're not going to do it to you. Fuck you, that's slander. ArenaNet, I almost wonder if ArenaNet is going to go after her for slander on this. Again, this is a prime example of how she is not taking credit. This gif over here, she means to imply that she is the cat and life and community is this kid jumping up and down on the trampoline, screwing up the cat so he can't get his footing under him. No. She is actually the gleeful little girl in this, and the entire situation is that cat. She has been attempting to direct this thing and bounce it and instigate it and aggravate it the whole way. Nobody is actually pushing anything, whereas everybody else is running damage control. This thing right here needs to be attacked by ArenaNet. No one to blame but yourself. Sad that you still can't learn to be humble and apologize. Gotta love how this idiot still will not admit she made the whole situation about sexism when the person she was talking to didn't even criticize her. You blew this up. I have a difficult time believing any manager is going to say, yes, by all means, act like an asshat while portraying yourself as a representative of our company. You won't know well and good you were representing ArenaNet when you chose to be rude to customers. Nobody was sexist but you. You got fired for stirring up trouble. You had it coming. You talked about them. You're not a good person. Yes, if you're a dev in this industry, you should understand that being disrespectful. Fantasyland. Nobody has been positive to her over here. ArenaNet was right in firing you. I might debate that a little bit. Like I said in the beginning of the video, they probably could have done some other things there. But, and I don't like the thought that people can claim that the mob did this. You know, O'Brien has stated they were doing it before the mob showed up, and I don't want to empower mobs. I hope the other side of it is that anybody who wanted her termed is realistic in knowing that they probably didn't have the effect on this that they thought. because I don't want to see people simply get the laser finger from this quote-unquote mob anymore. Like, people need to stand on their own, make their own way themselves, not what a bunch of people on the internet feel, good or bad, about it. But twisting the narrative, getting fired, oh my, what you've done, how do you plan to get employed again? I decided to buy 4,000 gems to support ArenaNet. They fired an employee for converting an open dialogue where they received a counter critique. You haven't learned a thing. You're going to do it at your next job. Burying her career. Nobody has stuck up for her in this thing here. And I have seen people defend her in some other tweets that she's put out there, including one who was really defending her. It's like if you saw that person's profile, you'll be like, I'm not surprised you were defending her. It seems absolutely perfect. Now, a real quality person will get a job. You, feckless. I mean, we know she's been toxic. You can go back in her past and see it. And again, I point to the Total Biscuit one. Very, very, very dangerous post for her, and I wonder if ArenaNet used that in their decision. But this woman has gotten herself fired. She has probably actually strengthened several ArenaNet fans for the company. She probably has not wiped out any ArenaNet fans who disagree with what happened. And she has also gotten Peter unemployed. I guarantee you, male or not, Peter will likely find a job again pretty quickly. I think Jessica, especially if the company knows what has happened to her here and is not oblivious to social media, she's going to have a hard time. She will be very, very risky to put on board. You know, it's like when you know you're hiring, like in the sports world, like Deion Sanders or something like that. You know you're probably getting a good player, but at the same time, you know you're getting somebody who's mouthy and could cause a lot of shit for your organization. So, yeah, I want to see this woman apologize. I want to see this woman put a public apology to Peter for getting him embroiled in this. I want to see him apologize to the fans and community and for ArenaNet for potentially, she's never going to admit it totally, but potentially putting them in a situation to question her continued employment with them. Maybe when she comes back from this vacation where she can maybe sit on a beach with no men around and have a Mai Tai and just chill the fuck out, maybe she'll do it. But I'm telling you, I'm not holding my breath. That's it for me here on G4G News. Hopefully this is it for the topic. You can check out some of what's going on with this over at Polygon. They've had at least 3 articles on it. The last one, however, was horribly skewed. A friend of mine at work read it and just came back, and I was like, okay, so what did you think? And she just basically regurgitated the 3rd Polygon article, the one on the 10th. And I was really disappointed because she took the stance of being very pro-Jessica, because she is also a dev, but not a game dev. She's a dev. And I was like, damn it. I had hoped you had done more research on this than just read the one article and get wrapped up in her side. But things happen. So, take care, everybody. I'll see you later.